Did you know Elon Musk laughed at Dmitry Rogozin's remark about the US rocket being a broomstick? The US has relied solely on Russia's RD-180 rocket engine supply for a long time, since Russia can no longer bear the sanctions, which have resulted in the crippling and humiliation of Russia's economy imposed by European nations, including the US. Rogozin decided to give the US a taste of the sanctions by halting the supply of the RD-180 rocket. Though for now, the world is against Russia for making the grave mistake of invading Ukraine. Dmitry Rogozin had no idea that Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, had developed a substitute for Russia's RD-180 rocket engine, which may be a better choice for the United States to switch over to. Could it, however, be the Raptor 2's newly designed engine? Stay tuned to find out. Dmitry Rogozin, Russia's director of the state space agency Roscosmos, though he had done significant damage to the US when he stated that Russia would no longer deliver any of Russia's rocket engines to the United States, nor would they repair them as they previously did. According to Dmitry Rogozin, chairman of the national space agency Roscosmos, Russia has decided to suspend delivering rocket engines to the United States in retaliation for sanctions imposed on Russia over Ukraine. In his own words, he stated, "In a situation like this, we can't supply the United States with our world's best rocket engines. Let them fly on something else, the broomsticks, I don't know what." Roscosmos plans to discontinue maintenance of the RD-180 rocket engines used by the United Launch Alliance, a Lockheed Martin and Boeing joint venture that launches national security missions for the Pentagon. It also stated that it would stop supplying the RD-181 engines in Northrop Grumman's Antares rocket, which is used to transport cargo and supplies to the International Space Station. Russia's decision to withdraw technical assistance is unlikely to impact subsequent launches. Tori Bruno, CEO of ULA, stated that the company has been utilizing the engines in its Atlas V rocket for years and has adequate knowledge in-house to manage any concerns that may occur with its engine supply. Jessica Rai, a representative for United Airlines, stated, "The corporation has agreements for technical assistance and spares, but if such help is not available, we will still be able to carry out our Atlas program safely and successfully." ULA moved to construct another rocket, codenamed Vulcan, that would employ American-made engines supplied by Blue Origin, the space company founded by Jeff Bezos, to reduce reliance on Russian engines for national security missions. Although the BE-4 engines have been delayed, Bruno has stated that he expects to obtain them this year and begin flying Vulcan. Northrop Grumman and NASA officials did not immediately answer requests for information on how the absence of the RD-180 engines will affect any prospective Antares space station flights. According to Joe Lorienti, CEO of Ursa Major, a propulsion system maker in the United States, the industry has known for a long time that the United States' reliance on Russian rocket engines constituted both a weakness and an impediment to innovation. However, this circumstance demonstrates that, despite guarantees from key defense contractors, the United States still has a long way to go to develop the robust and flexible industrial foundation necessary to remain the space leader. And it appears that Rogozin is taking the sanctions seriously, since he has also jeopardized the collaboration that has kept the space station running for more than 20 years. Putin has also stated that Russia will closely observe the behavior of our American colleagues, and if they continue to be unfriendly, we will return to the topic of the International Space Station's survival. Does that mean that Roscosmos will not bat an eyelid about shorting down the ISS and make everything dysfunctional? Let us know in the comments. If at all everything gets hostile, according to Rogozin, and Roscosmos decide to back off from the ISS, of course there will be network instability for the media, broadcasting network and internet service providers. And another question that will lead us to is, could Elon Musk's Starlink satellite cover the basic function of data transmission for both the media house and ISP? Elon Musk now stands a chance to prove his company's capabilities to the world. Rogozin reminded President Biden that Russia is responsible for firing the thrusters that keep the ISS in the correct orbit, and said that without Russia, the station could come crashing down. Wow, if that happens, it will be a crazy one for the world to bear. He explained that despite the multiple sanctions, the US would wish to preserve collaboration with Russia within the International Space Station. And he stated so because he believes it is difficult for the world to run the ISS without Russia. He stated in his words, "Managing the space station without us is unthinkable. We're in charge of its navigation and fuel distribution." Do you believe that the US will be unable to manage the ISS without Russia? On the other hand, NASA has tried to avoid any mention of ending its partnership with Russia. NASA's Assistant Administrator for Space Operations, Kathy Loiders, stated that the two space agencies are still discussing together. She said, "We're continually working out together. We're still collaborating. We realize the global issue is where it is, but these teams are working together as a united team." She stated, "Of course, we must continue to watch the situation. We've worked in similar situations and both parties have always conducted themselves appropriately. We recognize the significance of this beautiful project and the need to maintain peaceful relations between the two countries in space." NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hey was due to return from the space station alongside a pair of Russian cosmonauts aboard the Russian ship a few weeks ago. When queried about the flight, Loider stated that NASA was still expecting Russia to return Vande Hey safely and that no adjustments had been made. In addition, OneWeb, a manufacturer of internet-connected satellites, declared that it would cease all launches from the Baikonur Cosmodrome where Russia launches its Soyuz rockets. Rogozin had stated that Russia would only accept the launch if the British government relinquished its participation in the cooperation and the satellites were not utilized for military reasons. Moscow has also wanted assurances from OneWeb that its satellites would not be used for military reasons. OneWeb, which is also operated by the British government, want all launches from Russia's Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to be cancelled. It's remarkable how much turmoil can be caused by the activities of one demented ruler. You know who I'm talking about, and it's also incredible how the rest of the world has risen to the occasion to rebuild without Russia. Russia's space agency has a short memory. When Musk initially approached them about purchasing outdated boosters, they exaggerated the price to outrageous amounts. They were the only game in town, and they knew it. When Musk refused their offer, they practically told him that if getting rockets is so simple, he should build his own. Now, take a minute to thinking about the sort of humiliation Elon witnesses in the hands of Roscosmos in the early days of SpaceX. The United States should never rely heavily on Russia or China. Instead, they should always be self-sufficient and in the lead, both technologically and otherwise. Let Ukraine serve as a lesson to all of us. Russia cannot be a lunatic dictatorship and the leader of the free, civilized world at the same time. It's not like it'll put a stop to space exploration and rockets. SpaceX has its engines, and I believe the world has reached a point in history where rocketry and space exploration is no longer reliant on Russian rockets. How many countries have sent astronauts into space as part of Russia's space program? I'm curious whether they also employ Russian missiles. The RD-180 was a solid compromise between cost, lift capacity and a track record of successful launches, but I fear the Russians have recently slept on their laurels. I wish SpaceX the best of luck, and perhaps the Russian aerospace industry will be obliged to improve their game now. The United States was already on the verge of abandoning Russian engines. Aside from cooperation on the ISS and other initiatives, Congress agreed to prohibit using Russian-made engines for military contracts where Russia initially invaded Crimea. That prohibition was supposed to take effect this year. The United Launch Alliance (ULA), which is the largest US consumer of Russian engines, has already completed their final purchase and received the last of their RD-180s and is due to retire its Atlas V rocket, which used Russian engine. Over the last decade, engine research in the United States has advanced rapidly that even the most dependable Russian engines have become obsolete. As the constraints on military launch engine took effect, it seemed obvious that the commercial US rocket sector would swiftly follow, assuming they hadn't already been leading the race. In recent years, more contemporary, efficient and cost-effective domestic engine designs have flooded the US side of the business. There will be brief suspensions and delays for a few companies that rely on Russian engines, but overall, this has had little effect on the trajectory of US spaceflight. Do you believe Elon Musk and SpaceX will be able to fill in the gap and produce a rocket engine to replace Russia's RD-180 engines? Also keep an eye in SpaceX and Starlink's insane new plan to beat Russia. It's just brilliant! Just click on this video here.